These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Didn't feel we had anybody, and then just kind of took off. And usually the cavalry gets there a lot faster. But on that one, for some reason, I was able to get to the front pylon. And I had no idea how much it means to the O-linemen when I run. They said it was just a big deal to them. I didn't realize that. If I had known that, maybe I'd run more. So for some reason, they really liked it.
Oh, yeah, Cookie Boy, Kirk Cousins, that's right, using those legs. Ooh, snapping to a Slim Jim. Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Macho Mackey here with, I don't know what the hell we're looking at on the right side of the screen here. Looks like Jared Allen gave birth to Jim Polad's skull cap or something. Yeah.
Well, I'm just out for a little bit of sunshine in my nice Twins hat here, and I got my you know what's funny? It's supposed to be a mullet, but it's far more like a 1980s glam rock type of look.
Those were actually sort of mullets, though. They were just long mullets.
I guess
they were kind of shaved up top, on the sides.
It's very much like a Goldilocks look to me, with a long.
Would you go say that to Jared Allen's face?
No,
see what happens.
Yeah. Macho Man, I would never say that to Jared Allen's face. No, oh my God, no.
Yo, Macho Mackey sees you, Green Bay Packers. You're like an open book. That's right, an open book. And read you like a book. Coming out of your 30 years of great quarterback play. This is daily Minnesota sports therapy, speculation, entertainment here. It's a Vikings Victory Monday, and you can find Purple Daily Victory Monday hoodies and shirts now over on SKORNorth.com/shop. That's SKORNorth, SKOR North.com/shop. And because the Vikings are 6-1, I think we should wave the flag here with Judd's mullet. At least wave the mullet.
Hold on. Oh, Stella, give me the flag.
Right.
Thank you very much. There it is. Look at that. Waving in the wind.
Judd, we'll start with you on this Statements Monday here, and we'll get to some more Packer vent line. We played a couple clips over on Purple Day. There's more where that came from here on Mackey and Judd today, but we'll start with you on a Statements Monday on Mackey and Judd.
Okay, my first statement will be probably pretty obvious off what we saw yesterday, but it remains a huge part of the Vikings' success story, and it's on the defensive side of the football, and the statement's very simple. Za'Darius Smith has been a godsend. Za'Darius Smith has been a complete godsend. It was we classify it as a high-risk, high-reward type of signing, but even in my wildest dreams, I never thought that 7 games into the Vikings season, Za'Darius Smith would lead the National Football League with 8.5 sacks, and that so far, knock on wood, there has been no downside. Like, he's been hurt, he keeps playing.
The cream of the crop, the cream of the crop.
Kept playing.
The cream rises to the top,
Which way do I go here?
And Za'Darius Smith, of course, paid homage to our guy, Jared Allen, after a sack with the calf roping thing. This has been a great signing. It's worked out perfect. And with Danielle Hunter having 3 sacks and Za'Darius having 3 sacks on Sunday, it has really been one of the smartest moves that the Vikings have made.
So is he their best defensive player? I don't think it's close. He's just their best defense. They just signed a guy who was out with a back injury, hoping that he could get back to his previous form, and he's just their best defensive player.
Yes. I don't think there's any debate, right?
Man. Yeah, and it's there's a Danielle Hunter conversation to be had here. He hasn't been bad, but the sack results haven't been there. But Za'Darius has played in 3-4 defenses. He kind of knows how to get to the quarterback in ways that maybe Danielle doesn't in this type of formation and system.
Do you get on the immense amount of advanced statistics, do you ever see a statistic that documents how often guys are double teamed on defense?
I don't think that particular statistic exists because there's a lot of gray area there.
Subjective,
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Hunter probably remains or has been a focal point at times too. But again, there has to be a guy who it's going to pay off for. And it's paid off for Smith. So it's been a great signing. And plus, he's a bargain right now.
Yes, he is. As you can find at VikingsWire.com.
VikingsWire.com.
Written
That
by
column
Judd Zolgad. Yeah.
published early this morning, available right now for your consumption. Thank you very much.
All right, Dex, statements.
All right, my first statement off that Vikings win is you cannot ignore Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying that the teams are the defense, opposing defenses are ignoring Justin Jefferson. I'm saying from the Vikings side, they cannot ignore JJ. So in the first series, great start. He had a 28-yard chunk play to set up the initial touchdown. But then from the 3rd minute mark in the first quarter, Justin Jefferson was not targeted again until the second half, midway through the 3rd quarter. So they went basically almost 2 full quarters length of time without targeting their number 1 wide receiver. And when you look at the 30,000-foot view of his game yesterday, right, 98 yards, he still had 8 targets. But I think there's still these lapses where they just, for whatever reason, aren't targeting their guy. And yes, is he getting doubled? Is the other defense is doing all their best to focus on shutting down probably the best weapon on the Vikings offense for sure. But figuring out ways to get him the ball. Look at DeAndre Hopkins yesterday. He had like 12 targets, 13, 14, or 10 or 12 receptions, 13, 14 targets. He was a monster. Kyler Murray is finding him all over the field. The Vikings have to figure out ways to continue to get Justin Jefferson the ball, and going about 2 quarters length of time without targeting your best receiver, in my opinion, is malpractice, to use one of Judd's favorite words.
Well, so just looking at the target numbers, the Vikings threw 31 passes. Jefferson had only 8 targets, which right there, that just feels off. Like, okay, you're going to throw the ball 31 times. Jefferson should probably get minimum 10, probably more like 12, 13 targets, right? And then you look and see, okay, Dalvin Cook had 6 targets. Irv Smith had 4. So those guys had a combined 10 targets. That doesn't feel like how you scripted it up. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're going to go in and Irv Smith and Dalvin Cook are going to combine for more targets than Justin Jefferson. That feels like checking down to your second and third reads because it's too risky to throw the ball to where Justin Jefferson is, which is something that they continue to work through. And according to Judd, who was watching the sidelines, assuming with his binoculars up in the press box,
Field
like a
glasses
hawk,
were in play. Field glasses in play.
there were a few spirited conversations between KOC and Kirk Cousins.
Yes, there were. But you know what? This is part of the interesting dynamic about the maturation of how they're going to make this work. Because I'm with you. I don't think KOC forgets about Jefferson. I think this is purely based on what Kirk is comfortable with. And the contested catch that Jefferson made, beautiful catch, nice pass, is the type of pass Kirk hates to throw. And so somewhere in here, there is probably, at the very least, for Jefferson, Kirk, and KOC, a happy medium of how it should work, and I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah.
Because Declan's not wrong. Like, there should not be long periods of time where you're just like, oh, Justin Jefferson must be covered. We're not going to throw. He's too dynamic. You don't have enough dynamic receivers, which is why if you get one more guy who can be a little bit more of a downfield threat, it's going to help things out. Because that would at least then give you 2 guys who can take the top off the defense, where right now it's basically one guy.
Oh, yeah, take that top right off the defense. Yeah, right off the top. Right off the top. Yeah.
Vertical. Go vertical.
All right, my first statement here. Statement's 1 in. The Vikings need not apologize for playing and winning close games. There's nothing Macho Mackey likes more than a close shave. Yeah, close shave, smooth as a baby's bottom. This is a positive attribute. I think and maybe it's just like of the vacuum that I'm in, going through like Purple Daily comments and tweets and stuff, but there's just a lot of people that are angsty about the way the Vikings are winning games. And yes, at some point it would be nice if they just throttled someone. Okay, you jump out to a 14-3 lead, go score 40 points and make it a no-brainer. Don't stall out offensively late in the second quarter, right? Like there's definitely things that I'd like to see them be better at, but in the end, if they're playing in close games in the fourth quarter and they're winning them and they're finding ways to win and get stops on defense and score that last touchdown or respond to, trailing for the first time in the third quarter, I don't wring my hands at the way they're winning as much as some other people do. I understand, again, you'd like to create some more separation and show that you can blow someone out once. But I actually think this is a positive thing that we're seeing so far with these close victories.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yes, I would like to see them. There are times where it feels like they could definitely go on runs and create separation. And they did at one point yesterday, and then, of course, ended up trailing at one point in the third quarter. But as we've talked about for weeks now, this is also this league. Like, the Vikings aren't this weird team. Oh, you're playing close games, and every other good team's winning by, 20 points. So the majority of this league, if you're not named the Buffalo Bills or Kansas City Chiefs, probably win games this way. And you don't need to apologize, too, because what's being proven is you might not be great, but the rest of your conference for sure is probably not as good as your team. It's interesting that San Francisco is starting to creep back a bit. They shellacked the Rams.
They're very good.
And McCaffrey had a huge game. San Francisco is going to be, I think, a very much a second half team to watch. I think there's going to be a couple of teams in the conference that start to create separation and play well. And I think San Francisco is one. And I'm curious if the Eagles come back to earth a bit because they look real so far. I mean, they shellacked Pittsburgh, which isn't good, but they still did what we're asking the Vikings to do, which is they basically ran the score up on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so San Francisco they did lose a playoff game last year to the Rams, right? But they've won like 8 straight regular season games against the Rams. So they just oddly own the Rams. But yeah, that is a team that's better than their record indicates. I don't know that Seattle's going to be standing there at the end, but Seattle they're probably in the playoffs at this point, just based on some of the other crap we're seeing around.
Atlanta's in the playoffs at 4-4 in the South.
God. I know, Atlanta totally rebuilding in Atlanta, transition quarterback. All right, back to Judd.
I mean, it's incredible. All right, my next statement is this. It's time to make a deal. You know what I'm talking about. Today, Halloween. A lot of people love it. It's a lot of fun. It's time for candy.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow's time for football players to invade TCO Performance Center in the form of potential deadline trades. There are positions at which the Vikings can definitely upgrade, and I don't know that the price is going to be like we can't pay that price as far as the compensation going back to the teams that make the trades potentially with the Vikings. We talked about wide receiver is one because it's a sexy position, and I firmly believe that with Thielen seemingly going down on a weekly basis, the Vikings need another receiver, bit more speed, guy that can stretch the field and complement Justin Jefferson. But I think we're going to find out at Kevin O'Connell's press conference later today about the health of Dalvin Tomlinson, who I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to miss a couple of weeks. And defensive tackle was not a position of great strength before this. Tomlinson has certainly been a key player, but it wouldn't, I don't think it'd be a bad idea to try to add depth there. Again, I'm not saying go trade for a Pro Bowl player, but if you could add competent depth, it might help. So it's time to play. Let's make a deal, Kwesi. I'm not asking you to give up the farm, mortgage the future, but I am saying you're clearly being presented with an opportunity here. You have what's clearly a good team, and it's very much on line to win the division and make the playoffs. And bolstering the roster a little bit wouldn't be the worst idea in the world right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna piggyback off that and tell you that in part because they don't have a deep threat wide receiver to play next to Justin Jefferson, my statement is the Vikings are winning a bunch of games despite the fact that Kirk Cousins has been terrible by his standards. All right? And terrible by his standards doesn't mean terrible like relative to the rest of the league. He's a good quarterback. But he has right now, we're halfway through the year almost, career lows in QBR, passer rating, yards per attempt, completion percentage is the second lowest since 2017. It was a little bit lower. But they're winning games despite all these things. His average depth of throw is among the lowest in the league, so he's not throwing the ball on the field. And if you give him another weapon, he probably does, because he throws a nice deep pass. Mm-hmm. I just don't know that there's a lot of guys breaking open on deep passing routes. But it's kind of amazing how for years and years and years, he would put up these ridiculous back of the football card stats. And his teams would always just be a gravitational pull toward 500. I mean, he literally had a 500 record exactly after 120 career games coming into the season. And now he's just not playing that well. He's not as accurate. The eye test would tell you he just doesn't look like he's playing at full speed. The numbers would bear it out. And yet, because the things around him are better and well coached and well schemed, and when they get to the red zone, they're cashing in at a higher percentage because Kevin O'Connell draws up great plays. They're doing all this damage in the win column, despite the fact that he hasn't really joined the party yet to his fullest capabilities. So maybe getting him a deep threat wide receiver would help just unclog things for him. But yeah, it's kind of amazing how you look across the board and like his stats are just down. A guy that has prided himself off stat, like all of his Crusader, fans. Just look at his stats. It's like now it's the opposite. And I think you'd rather have the team success than the Kirk Cousins statistical success with a 500 record. So you can't complain too much, but I would like both. It is possible to have both, a quarterback that performs at his peak capabilities and a team that wins a bunch of games. It does happen, shocker, in the NFL from time to time.
I don't know what's going to happen with this guy, and if it does, I don't know when. That's what I can't figure out. I mean, O'Connell is clearly managing Kirk as he sees fit, as best as possible, and it's clear there's times where Kirk is doing things O'Connell does not like. But yeah, I'm very curious. Just talking about Kirk Cousins, if you can marry the statistical Kirk to the Kirk that is currently on a 6-1 team.
And the thing is, even when he's playing fairly poorly, again, like relative to his career, this is as bad as it gets statistically.
Yep.
But it's not near bad enough to say, oh, you got to bench him or something, right? He's not out there just throwing interceptions, 6 per game. He at the very least, he has a very high floor. He's not going to just shipwreck games for you. So it's hard to just like move on because, at worst, he's keeping you in games and he's competitive and he's a game manager, as you pointed out on Purple Daily today. He's a very good game manager. At some point,
he is.
If you really want to win a Super Bowl, you probably need more than what he's giving you. And if the answer is, well, then you need to put better things around him. Well, you can't afford to just put a perfect thing around him. That's where like the deep threat wide receiver. Well, there's a couple guys out there that have cap hits of $25 million. You can't fit them on your team if you want to also extend Jefferson and have Kirk under contract for years to come. It doesn't work like that.
I think what we're learning is this. I think that what Kevin O'Connell's trying to do with Kirk is far more probably mental than physical.
He's
taking him out of his comfort zone.
The mental side of the game, yeah.
Just think about this for a second, okay? Why is Kirk all of a sudden not as accurate on throws that he has been making for probably 20 years? Why is he not? Like, he didn't lose his touch about, oh my God, I can't think of how to.
He is getting a little older.
He is getting a little bit, but I think it's because he's being challenged to go outside his comfort zone at times, which is not a bad idea. But I think I think a lot of stuff with Kirk comes down to between the ears and doing things that Kirk doesn't like to do. O'Connell, fortunately, can ask those things and at least take a step towards getting them. I just don't know how far it can actually go, though, Phil, to be what you're talking about, which is really a standout type of quarterback who can do the right things, not submarine games, and also put up statistics that he did for years, which were the stats of a 500 quarterback.
He's all about risk management, really. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Sometimes you need a little bit more as a quarterback, but as a business owner, you love risk management. Companies like Federated Mutual Insurance Company that can help protect your business against unwanted risks, can help guide you through crises and navigate choppy waters. It's like having just a great guiding hand sitting on the shoulder of your business. Federated's been around for over 100 years, maximizing the success of businesses. You can find out more about what they can provide at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. The Purple Positivity candle also being lit all across Vikings Nation here, Judd.
And if you don't have yours, Sportsnet has one question for you. Why not? Spiral Light Candles
light the flame.
Produced Judd's Purple Positivity candle, and it came out before week 1. And you know what now? If you have one, you can burn it almost every Sunday. Oh, the scent,
burn
the
it
aroma.
To the ground.
Fantastic. Don't burn it to the ground. I want your house safe. I want you safe. But the aroma's fantastic. The candle, Spiral Light, yes, it burns spirally, but then there's a wick at the end that you can continue to burn. You know what? Vikings play a lot of nail biters, right? Games are too close. You're like, oh my gosh, my heart it's pounding. How can you calm yourself? There's nothing like a candle to calm down. Spiral light candles, the purple positivity candle, and also many other choices of great candles. They are fantastic gifts. The holidays are coming. You know what the holidays scream for? That's right, some really nice scented candles. SpiralLightCandles.com, and tell them Sports Dad told you to drop on by.
All right, my next statement after Vikings win over the Cardinals is Patrick Peterson is back, baby. So Pat P with another big game yesterday. 3 pass deflections, few tackles. Going into this game, and this data is not available yet, at least on Pro Football Reference side of things, opposing quarterbacks only have a 52 passer rating when targeting Patrick Peterson this season.
Ooh.
Now, that's 35 targets, so, relatively small sample size. But in general, a veteran cornerback, when you hit 32, 33, you start to slow down. And last year, it was a fine year. He was an average cornerback. He certainly wasn't a detriment to the Vikings, but obviously a far cry from being the all-pro that he was in the early part of his career with the Arizona Cardinals. This year, it seems like he's just having a resurgence. The big pass deflection to knock out a touchdown yesterday in the first half was a huge play. It just seems like Pat P, who's always been a leader off the field, both in Arizona and Minnesota, you can tell he was really fired up yesterday. He does not like Steve Keim. He does not like how Jordan Hicks was disrespected as well. It just seems like Patrick Peterson, who is a leader on this team off the field, is actually back on the field and being the shutdown corner he was in the first half of his career.
Yeah, it's the resurgence of Patrick Peterson. We were kind of talking before the season. Boy, okay, where's Booth going to get some playing time, right? Is it going to? It's probably not going to be Dantzler because he's going to take a step forward. Could we see a changing of the guard? But he's been one of their stable forces defensively, and at this point, I think it was a foregone conclusion a few months ago. It's probably his last season as a Viking. I mean, if he's just going to be a good veteran presence, I don't know that I would say that anymore. If he wants to stick around and play at a high level or switch to safety at some point, like Charles Woodson did to extend his career. I'm very intrigued by the resurgence of Patrick Peterson.
The last 2 games, Za'Darius Smith and Peterson have been fantastic. Because the Dolphins game, I think Peterson was credited with 2 or 3 pass breakups and had a late pick in that game as well. Those 2 veterans, the last 2 games specifically statistically, have been just marvelous.
Amen.
So,
amen.
That's the good news.
I think we need to take a break here and pause these Vikings